You heard it right here, right down from the beach.
The new ivory is mammoth.
What do you guys want to know? I've done way too much research on dinosaurs.
Almost a larger-than-life figure.
There's no reason at all to think it was made by aliens.
Drop down and go swimming as fast as you can.
All these big giants give me a kiss and tell me they don't.
The crowd, just the pot, the loudness, the excitement, the electricity. I don't know if I can take your little Canadian destroyer.
Future is scary, but it's also wonderful. Welcome back to Unscriptify, the podcast where we throw the script out of window sometimes and occasionally pretend that we know what we are doing. Today's guest is basically the Michelangelo of Middle-earth. He's painted Gandalf more times than we've said. We'll edit that later. So you've seen his work on Magic the Gathering cards, book covers, and that one Dungeons and Dragons manual that you spilled coffee on in 2007. So yes, we are talking about the legendary Donato Giancola. He's a Renaissance painter who somehow time traveled into Comic-Con and never looked back. So let's hear how it's possible to paint Frodo's face for the 10th time without losing your mind. And everybody grab your brush or balvenie or both and let's get unscripted with Donato Giancola. Donato, nice to meet you and how you did?
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Luca. Thank you for having me here today.
Yeah, nice to have you. Like I said, you are one of the rare artists that actually combines some really phenomenal art influenced by medieval Europe, by Renaissance, with geekdom. So it's something unique. How do you approach that? Why did you choose this path in your artistic career?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's unique. I think artists throughout history have been having this dialogue with older classical work that they get inspired by, that they feel connected to. And I didn't really choose how I paint. If it kind of just evolved and chose me as a storyteller and as a lover of both world building and realism. So I think what made me got me set on this path was my love of Dungeons and Dragons, role playing, making up stories, telling stories, and then my abilities as an artist to be very detail oriented, very technical, and pursuing a almost cinematic representation of the stories that I'd like to see brought forth. And so as my skills got better and better, basically photorealism became the highest pinnacle of trying to express the world building and the narrative structures. And therefore I started turning towards classical painters, historical painters who had very high exceptional capabilities in that direction and emulating their technical choices, their capabilities, and then that's who made me what I am. So here I am after all of that.
Yeah, and you still paint in oils. So what keeps you loyal to these traditional mediums in the age of digital, basically everything?
Looking in hindsight at why I stayed as a traditional painter when all the digital media, and in a way I should have become digital because of the way I embrace storytelling and science fiction. But two things happened. One was just before the digital wave started really moving through the commercial field, I started selling paintings. I started selling original artworks to collectors. So that meant that if I went digital, I would no longer have that income and that connectivity to conventions and the marketplace and the community of original art collectors and buyers and painters. And then two, I think I recognized that what I do as a painter, I've been, probably like all the artists and sports people, like everyone you've interviewed here has probably been doing it their entire lives. Whatever they're doing, right? They're passionate. So I've been making art ever since I was born, basically. And so making physical things is very meditative. It's very Zen. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel creative. I love the hand manipulation of things. And that tactileness is not available when you're doing digital work. at all. Like in a comparative manner of what I'm used to as a creative maker of things.
Well, in the art class when we were kids, we were taught that oil technique is actually purely gangster because apparently it was so hard. That's what they told us.
Yeah. Oh, it's horrible. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, it's torturous. I mean, my first oil paintings are hilarious. I still remember my I bought oil paintings to make a portrait of somebody, and so I knew that serious portraiture was done in oils. So I went out and bought oil paintings, not knowing anything about oil painting or paints or anything. And the first thing I started doing was painting the face, and in order to make shadows on the face, they're darker. So how do you make a color darker? You add black to it. So this painting of the face is just like red, white, yellow, and black. It's just, it was horrendous. It was horrendous.
So is that is maybe some of those early paintings that you have done, or something recently, something more professional? Is that something that actually shows who you are as an artist, that defines you through your painting, and who Donato is behind the brush? Or what art would be that?
I mean, unfortunately, I did not get a photograph of that first work of art, but very
Hopefully.
no, I think hopefully, because I've been a teacher for 25 some odd years. I've been teaching, or 30. I think it's maybe 30. Yeah, 95. So it's been 30 years I've been teaching other artists and students. So I use those early works as a great education to show, like, I'm human. Like, I didn't grow spring forth from my mother's womb able to oil paint like this. So I learned there's a trajectory, there's steps, there's plateaus that you reach as you acquire skills. And I use those references, those images from my early career as an artist, to show that it just, I put in time, I studied, I took classes. So I think that's important to convey to other artists who are learning, who want to learn.
Do you? I mean, and speaking of those techniques, when you are, especially for us as your audience, when you dabble in certain genre, there is an expectation of aesthetic, if you know what I mean. We kind of have an idea of what sci-fi looks like, of what fantasy looks like, what a historical painting looks like.
Right.
When you're using those techniques, do you think in that matter? Do you think like this has to adhere to a certain sci-fi aesthetic, let's say, or fantasy aesthetic?
Well, in a way, like, a lot of my choices, Luca, were made by commercial product. So I was an illustrator to doing book covers in the early part of my career, and most of my career. So I had the expectations were given by the commercial marketplace of kind of high narrative realism, and that's kind of what I get at, is like, like, that's the boundary, that's the choice that was made for me to achieve this level of visual world building and accuracy towards human anatomy and cinematic presentation. So yeah, but like, so that was like an expectation for the marketplace of commercial book covers and such, and advertising. But internally, to be honest, I believe anything is possible. Like, and that's why I love teaching, is seeing, I think it's like, you can call it the plurality of imagery. So like, even like we, like, looking at what's happening in the marketplace now, or even in like Magic the Gathering on their cards, they've really exploded in the past couple years in terms of like Magic, of the representation of different styles, tattoo artists, underground artists, graphic artists, very, and really a very diverse representation of storytelling and communication for fantasy art. And I love that. I love seeing that. So in a way, it breaks the idea that there has to be a track, that there has to be like one way of seeing. And it's a wonderful sampling. But myself, I just love hyper realism in terms of like what I do as in my own work.
Do you think that the art world, the critics and these lovers of art and everybody takes fantasy and sci-fi seriously yet, or is it still like the ghetto of art?
Yeah, there's I don't like what you mean, like the fine art world of
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
really broadly, like those are really broad terms. It's like saying all sports players are this way. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
like like which sport, which one do you want to talk about? Like which art form? So yeah, there like fantasy and science fiction certainly has an association with like pop culture.
Yeah.
But I think that's really changing as people age. More generations age up through it, have been consuming it for as long, and you find it like whittling its not but just really injecting itself into so many streams of narrative visual consumption. So that it's not, it's still sad that you could you can't go into the Museum of Modern Art here in New York City and see one of the greatest inventive art forms of the 20th century is not on the walls of MoMA. Comics, cartoons, comic strips. None of that is represented unless you look at The Thief of Roy Lichtenstein, who was stealing it from comic artists, but not the source material, right? I mean, that's just, that's nothing compared to what the real art is about. And so that's what Lichtenstein was doing. So like to not see that represented is really sad, that the institutions are not recognizing the genre of fantasy, of science fiction, of kind of future science fiction, of projection of technology. But I think that's changing. That's change. That'll change.
Mhm. So when you look at some of your arts, do you ever go like, this is better than something in Louvre? Or is there more situations like, I can make this goblin even more sexier? So what's more common?
Well, I don't try to say I can do it better, but I in a way that's why I love going to museums, because I want to like see it as equal. I think that's what helped elevate my work early on. Just before I got out of school was when I started visiting the museums of New York City. I started making visits to New York City as a student. And that's when I changed and became aware that my my peer expectations went from the fellow students in my classroom to being aware of professionals working, and then being aware of all the dead people, right, in art history, like in the museums, that were also part of that comparative assessment of what I could do as an artist. And that's so when I started looking at like a Caravaggio and going, okay, Caravaggio was human, at least as far as we know, right? So this is a human who made these paintings. Michelangelo was a human. I'm extraordinary humans, but they were humans that made these objects. And it's possible that you can pursue that path, right? Pursue that level of achievement. And that's what I started equating. That's when I started raising my own expectations and commitment to what I was trying to do as an artist to the museum level of standard. Can I make something that would be seen, be able to be hung in a museum? And that's that. I mean, that transformed how I proceeded, therefore, onto my path in terms of the craftsmanship that I now do.
Yeah. But is that pursuit, like you said, like you mentioned, for example, like Michelangelo and everybody, is that a pursuit for, let's call it emotional truth, or is it just for visual perfection?
Oh, interesting. Good. It used to be visual perfection back in my earlier career when I was attempting to illustrate very precisely the narratives out of the books that I was illustrating and trying to do all that world building. So I think early on in my career, I still had technical hurdles that I was attempting to, uh, you know, plateau up to.
Okay.
Yeah, once I got to those achievements, right, then I opened up my mind a little bit. And that's actually when I started making that comparative analysis of the museums a little more directly. Like, oh, I'm now technically as proficient as what I'm seeing in some of these museum halls, right? Some of the painters. So now what do I say? And that's when the emotional connection came. And that's when I started realizing I needed to start making paintings that connected to my humanity more than just a narrative reproduction of some writer's works in the novels or the game product just hitting the notes of, the paragraph that a game illustration was requiring. So yeah, interesting that's that emotional integrity is where I started pursuing. About 25 years ago, it really started triggering. And that's still on a trajectory where I am now with what I'm making for my art.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, now you spoke obviously when you're drawing something that's from Middle Earth. Obviously, you are looking from the source, from the
Yeah.
Tolkien's words. Uh, and uh, certain writers and they're adapting. Obviously, Ursula Le Guin and similar. They have different styles and different, obviously
Right.
writing. Uh, it was that because your Tolkien works are very well regarded, and you spent a lot of time and a lot of paintings from the Middle Earth. Was his just were you just also a fan,
Oh,
literally, of Middle Earth, obviously, but was it also that his writing maybe was for you easy to translate to the canvas?
well, first of all, you hit it right, Luca. That I am a huge fan. Told the in a very deep and passionate way, in part because almost literally the one of the first novels I had read as a young man, I think I must have been 12 or 13, when my brother handed me The Hobbit to read.
What time?
It was one of the first novels I had read in my free time, like outside of school requirements, education requirements, right? Reading for school. It was a reading for pleasure, and that just opened up the whole world of reading. It opened up, to The Hobbit, to Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, the Book of Lost Tales, Book of Unfinished Tales, all more of Christopher Tolkien's edited notes.
Yeah.
And then obviously all the other fantasy writers also that I started consuming and being exposed to. Uh, so yeah, that very much a fan. That's why in a way that's so deep inside of me is that it connects to me being motivated as an artist to make and interpret those stories. And then the other side is Tolkien. Like when you've read Tolkien, it is he doesn't describe anything physically. He uses emotional descriptors.
Very
So if you actually
theatrical.
very theatrical, right? Very emotional and therefore very interpretive, in terms of like what you can do with that as an artist. And that's why like anyone who interprets Tolkien is kind of doing it correctly because he didn't provide you with much, he made his own illustrations of a few, mostly from The Hobbit and, some few of the Silmarillion and little moments, but really very little in terms of detailed structure. And so you can really run with that as a creator and then interpret it so many different ways that you wish to.
How does that compare? I know you did one. I know for one that you did one artwork for Wheel of Time. Did you read Wheel of Time?
No, I had not read it. So that's where what's was it Jordan's work. I just did not consume it as a reader. That I didn't have anyone telling me what books to read and such. So I was just buying books based on a lot of times by the cover art. And
That would be for you a completely opposite experience because Jordan just molds us. People who read will have every description ever of everybody and every landscape and every tower repeated for 50 times, just so we can clarify, that nobody has any other idea of what it looks like.
oh, I know. And right. So that can be very overwhelming, constrictive.
Oh
It,
yeah, it is.
yeah, like I feel almost sad for like all you guys are young, fairly young. So you guys probably grew up like seeing the Lord of the Rings movies when they came out.
Yeah.
Like, did you see them before you read the books?
Yes, yes.
I did. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so like that ruined it. Sorry. It ruined your imagination, right? You could no longer see anyone as Gandalf except Ian McKellen, right? Like who else
Yeah.
can't see it, right? Because it's so embedded in you, right? Whereas for me, anybody can be Gandalf, like anybody, because it's like it's inside, it's just in the word. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of connects to what I wanted to ask you about talking. Obviously, being a huge fan yourself, me as well, and everything. Because after Lord of the Rings movie, obviously, that's the thing that hooked me out for the books. Later, Hobbit, Silmarillion, now Unfinished Tales, Fall of Numenor, etc. Yeah, yeah. And as well, I expected Balrog in books to be Peter Jackson's Balrog, but when you read about it, it's something
Sorry.
different.
Oh no, that's so funny. Like, yeah, the movie's got the Balrog in a way all wrong.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
for one, like he was too big to walk through any of the dwarven halls. Like how big were
Yeah.
it's like Smog. Smog was too big to even go into the dwarven realm. Like, how could he have gotten there? It's like
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Too
always.
big. Sorry, it's just
And
like that's me. That's me. Yeah, that's the fan talking. Like that's the book fan.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's geeking out right now.
yeah.
uh, yeah, and of course, but connected to your art, obviously making all this art for the Middle Earth and everything, and then movies come out, then Hobbit come out, now Rings of Power come out, and everybody is molding their perspective of, like you said, Ian McKellen as Gandalf, Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn, Balrog as looking as Balrog that we saw. So how does that maybe affect future art regarding Middle Earth and similar other fantasies? Are they uh, is there need to have them similar to those most popular options, or are you still free to give your own perception of it?
Well, I mean, luckily, I'm free to interpret. I can't say that. I'd be hypocritical if I didn't say those movies were impactful. I mean, they're amazing, right?
Yeah.
But they were just one more artistic voice added to the bounty that I'm used to. So yeah, like the riders of Rohan. I mean, their armor, the representation of them was just like killer. It's like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
can't do better than that, right? But for the Balrog, I was like, oh, that's not the Balrog. So I've never done the Balrog the way they do it in the movie. It's like, that's not right. It's like he's supposed to be darkness with a little bit of fire. And like, yeah, like it's
Yeah.
the darkness. It's about the dark threat. So yeah, so a way, yeah, I pick and choose. So I think that's the confidence that I have as a commercial. Like, by the time the movies came out, I was already 7 years into my career. So I already had my formative, thoughts about myself as an artist. So the movies did not sway me in any kind of impactful way over how to represent my vision of Middle Earth. So I just continue on. And actually, I was speaking of I'm just working on this painting right here now. It's like it's a hand. I love painting hands. So this is the Lord of the Nazgul, the Ring Wraith on Amansul when he's getting ready to stab Frodo. So it's his hand with the Morgul blade. So I've been working on this like yesterday and today. So
It's phenomenal.
thanks. There you go. You'll see it eventually online in better detail.
Yeah.
That's kind of like, yeah.
Well, your what did you call it? Frodo's Inheritance, right? Your paint.
Oh, that one. Yes. Yeah, that came out.
that one
well.
was. When talk about hands, that one looked very good. Very good.
Yeah, that's a good example of the openness of interpreting the world of Middle Earth and Tolkien's writing. Like you know that's not a scene in any of the books, but it's hinted at, right? Frodo wrote the letter. No, I'm sorry, Bilbo wrote the letter for Frodo.
Yeah.
So, right, so it's implied, but I could run with that. You know, that's a wonderful artistic license, interpretive addition to the world of Middle Earth without having been done by anybody else. As well.
Yeah, but have you maybe noticed afterwards, maybe in the latest series, I haven't still watched the second season. I cannot force myself to do that. So, but have you maybe noticed?
That's a whole another episode.
Yeah.
Continue on.
That's honest. But did you maybe or somebody told you noticed something from your works in this series or
Oh,
No.
like
No.
no. I mean, I didn't recall somebody. I got to know Paul Tobin, who's one of the. He used to work at Weta. He mentioned that when they were working on the films that they had my Hobbit, the graphic novel cover of the Hobbit up on one of their mood board walls for the dwarves. So yeah, I could see a little bit of that. And then I think what more funny, I think, I've been painting hands for decades, and it was really nice to see that the Amazon series, when they were advertising, they went with all those hands, right? And it's like,
yeah.
maybe they got triggered by what I've been doing, like painting the hands of all these, Gandalf and Boromir. Maybe they got triggered by maybe running with that. I don't know, but
That's the only good job they did.
well, I mean, those were cool, weren't they? Right?
Yeah, they were. It was the trauma material.
Yeah, like it's like hands are portraits, right? It's like, and they did a really good job with those. So I was, and then oh, why couldn't the series be as good as your
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so sometimes the promo materials can trick us, right?
Yeah, I know. It was there's a lot of good people working on it. So it's not for lack of trying, right? They're
More
the
than-
people putting their heart into it, and then they get stabbed.
Play the board all night.
As it's put out.
It feels like. I get you. I completely get you. But as a fan, I have another fan question. As you are so close with all the characters, more than most of us painting them, being part of this world in some sense, is there some characters that you like to do more than the other, and who is your favorite personally?
Well, you jokingly stated at the beginning, like Gandalf. It's like it was, yeah. I mean, accidentally, not unintentionally, I've painted him like so many times. It's like almost sick of it. I got to do something other than Gandalf.
Yeah.
So yeah, in a way, I think because he's like, I know he's like the guardian. He's like the all father, right? He's your guide. He's so it's just he's a protector. So and he definitely is a thematic strengthening structure that runs throughout the entire novel. I mean, really, it should be called Gandalf and the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Really, right? I mean, he is a key link through almost everything, except for when finally, Sam and Frodo go off together. But that's really, it's just amazing.
Yeah, but guess who welcomed them on the other side of the rest? So he's true.
Right, there he was. He's the one who finally got the evil. Like, go rescue Frodo. They're on Mount Doom. Go find them. So even he was our player in that too, right? Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So what's that? Go ahead.
Go on.
I was gonna say, like, I think by default, because I've been a fan of like I could just make whatever paintings I want. And I think I just like painting the old man. Like I love painting Gandalf. He's like Moses, right? He's just I mean, he's got a, getting a model, getting good models, good, I love painting just really complex textures and shapes, and Gandalf kind of wraps up and encompasses a lot of that. And then narratively, he's everywhere, right? So he's just, he's all over the place. So that's why I've got to like now cut Gandalf out of my new Middle Earth paintings, just so I get something balancing, so it's not Gandalf.
Yeah, so how do you keep it creatively fresh? Because you're painting familiar worlds. You are painting like this Middle Earth world over and over again. Are you focusing like on one detail that you wanna do you wanna tell a story of a detail, or some broader story? Let's put it.
Yeah, that's why, like, I'm jokingly talking about getting Gandalf out, but I'm intentionally doing it. Like, I love finding, like you mentioned, Frodo's inheritance, look, right? That's just like, that's a moment that no one else has illustrated. And I just did a painting earlier this past year, just earlier this year, of Frodo and Sam after they've jumped off the bridge after leaving Cirith Ungol, escaping from Cirith Ungol. No one had illustrated that down when they're in the thorns and hiding. It's not in the movies, but it's in the books. And that's them, like, and that's a moment. And so it's like, oh, this is a great moment to show their friendship, show their camaraderie, show that they are the threat and the darkness of Mordor. So yeah, that's a moment. That's like a non-climactic moment, but it's very revealing about the narrative, and like goes back to that emotional integrity that you asked, like, what am I trying to do now with my work? And the emotional integrity is very strong in those moments, and that's why I get drawn into them. That's why I'm kind of like looking for these ways of illustrating Middle Earth, but not doing the climactic expected narratives that, like, people want to see, or maybe they want to see these other scenes, but they don't know it yet until they see them.
Yeah.
Is that the reason why you didn't attempt the Thingolfin versus Morgoth?
Already one versus Morgoth.
I did a little study, but yeah, I mean, that's an expected narrative. So actually, one of my ones I want to gear up for is it's when was it Turin kills Baelig? No, not Turin, Tur accidentally kills Baelig. So it's like, it's in the Silmarillion, so it's his elf friend, and it's a very sad moment. And it's like, oh, that's a cool moment to represent, like the emotional sadness and sorrow and loss, and also the guilt of that action.
Well, we are still talking about Lord of the Rings. One of my favorite characters is from Silmarillion, Medros, and you do not have some really special history of artwork for him. Yeah, I mean, I know why, because it's hard to paint his hand, as he don't have one. So, so is there more inspiration in Silmarillion with those stories, or in original Tolkien worlds that came out first, like Hobbit and Lord of the Rings? As that's
As I'm making these paintings, what I've been enjoying is the real intimate detail, or the suggestion of intimate moments that Tolkien is very good at describing when he's doing The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. In a way, like, he really gets down into, like, the Hobbit experience, like, having a mushroom dinner, when at Farmer Maggot's home, right? Or the, taking a rest under the old man willow when they're tired after walking through the forest all day. So those kind of moments are not written into the Silmarillion. The Silmarillion is this broader mythological experience. It's like reading the Old Testament. Like it's just like it's like
Yeah.
these are these grand epic, or reading about. So it's for me it lacks the humanness that he brings to Middle Earth through the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, and so I think that's what I get triggered by. That's I think to your point, Petar, about like Madros and uh, all the other like Baron and Luthien. I guess I've done a Baron and Luthien painting, but the whole Silmarillion crowd hasn't gotten my treatment yet because I just love the intimate tragedies that Tolkien embellishes. And not to say that they don't exist in the Silmarillion, I just haven't been drawn to them yet as an artist.
Yeah, but to be honest, as a fan as well, Silmarillion is not a work of literature as much as Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are.
Yeah.
Silmarillion is more like encyclopedia of that, like history book and everything. So, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Oh no, but it is. There's so many great stories. Yeah.
Yes, but
out of
I mean, Silmarillion is still was published as unfinished work because
Right.
yeah, he never finished it. Christopher did, so yeah, and you can see the difference and everything. So
but-
and
yeah.
go on.
No, I was going to say like it's not like he's doesn't have really emotional tragedies in there. They just haven't. I guess I haven't been connected to them as it happens to all the elves. Yeah, basically, Marillion's all about elvish stuff, and it's like, where's the humans? Like the humans are just like there's Baron, like,
Yeah.
then there's like Huron and Nahor and
Yeah.
and Turin, and there's a couple human. I guess but really, so they're there, but I guess not in as an abundance. I think, yeah.
Yeah, but like Baron and Luthien, it's better Romeo and Juliet story than Romeo and Juliet, in my opinion.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's pretty good. Well, I don't know, not better. It's good.
In my opinion. So, yeah. But you labeled all those fantasy worlds and fantasy as a modern mythology. So, what stories do you think people will be still telling 100 years apart from now?
Well, I mean, certainly Tolkien is one of those, like because it resonates so broadly, and again, so basically too, the idea, the battle against tyranny and authority, right? That resonates even now. So, like, certainly these are very impassioned stories. Probably like the story of Superman, right? That'll be, like getting it culled away from the genre of comics and into the idea of, basically, Superman's an immigrant. He's an illegal immigrant. Just came, he didn't go through the in America, like like documentation or anything, right? So like that, like those kind of ideas of embracing people who aren't exactly like you and finding empathy with them. I know those are important aspects to communicate, especially in our world today. To communicate those ideas. Yeah.
Did you, obviously you some of these universes that you did work in, you mastered them because you did so many of artworks in Magic the Gathering, in Middle Earth, were you ever on your own wanted to, have an artwork based on some fictional universe or something? Or you were even asked to do a job on certain universe or something where you wanted, but maybe you couldn't get it? Did that ever happen? Like that you just couldn't, put the artwork where you wanted it?
Oh, you mean like I don't know. I think that's the world, like the world of Magic. Like I'm not a Magic player. So like like the whole Dominaria, the whole world of Magic is foreign to me. I'm a D&D player. So like every time I make a Magic painting, I've got to read about and learn about the specifics of that culture or that part of the world they want me to illustrate. So I'm always like trying to latch myself into those worlds, but not being connected like I am with the narratives of like Tolkien. And so it makes it harder. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Luca?
Yeah.
But I don't have
You-
trouble. But I don't have trouble trying to make a beautiful work that has some integrity that relates to those stories. And that's that aspect of the emotional narrative and connection that helped plateau me up to another level, about a handful of years into my career, is that when I started looking at paintings, like I mentioned, that if I could make paintings that would hang in a museum, what would they look like? And they started to detach themselves from the narrative that the authors were giving me. And I started injecting my paintings with more of my own emotional integrity, my own narrative integrity. And I would blend it with my clients' needs, but I would bring my own desires into that dialogue, collaboration, you could say, between those. And that made for much greater works of art from my studio, from myself.
and also based on that, I know you did some also paintings based on history and historical people. Is that in any way different? Based on the approach, do you think in a way like these are real, and therefore I have a certain different I don't know, responsibility, if you will, say it like that. Is there a little bit of that? Or would you do a portrait of the U.S. president if you could?
Yeah, like I've done very few historical paintings, but
Yeah, so the
think
King
it's,
King Henry V.
yeah, like there is a will, like I guess as a fantasy illustrator, science fiction illustrator, I've always been a bit of a science oriented illustrator, that I like to get the facts down. I like the world building, like to make it be plausible and be accurate. And in a way, that's what you have to do as a historical painter. Is in a way you almost have to be a science fiction illustrator. Is that you have to use the science of the history and apply it to making up the moment in history that is not photographed, right? That is just maybe communicated through a story or some document that describes an event. But then you have to be like an archaeologist and dig up references, dig up armor, dig up, costumes, and recreate it, which is what science fiction is. Really good science fiction is about postulating the future of our world, our science, but also good science fiction is about extrapolating from science and reinterpreting. So science can be about archaeological digs, right? Prehistorical. Like one of my favorite painters when I was studying was Zdeněk Burian, and he's a Czech artist who did these incredible early human recreations, dinosaurs and but his recreations of early humans, like Neanderthals and Homo erectus, are just mind-blowingly excellent. And so that's doing incredible science fiction work for me, looking at it like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Have you ever had a painting maybe that emotionally wrecked you while you were making it?
Oh, not so much emotionally wrecked me, but the content is, I made a painting called Sorrow, and it's about the loss of a loved one, like a loss of a child by parents. So I have two daughters, and that would be one of the most devastating experiences, would be the idea of a death of one of them. And so I made a painting, and that's pretty loaded. That's a pretty heavily loaded image. And so, it didn't so much wreck me, but I definitely, not so much I like to go into these places, but I feel like they are explorations I can do and need to do as an artist to just work things out myself.
Yeah, just looking at that picture. Yeah.
Oh, you found it? Found it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if you re-edit and show these things afterwards, but that's a great way, to
Yeah,
tie
yeah,
it.
yeah.
But
We will in the video. Yeah.
yeah, that idea, the painting actually was initially going to be like two humans, two parents grieving over a child, like farmers,
It was weird.
peasants. And I realized this, like getting about the science, like, okay, so if they're two humans, I needed to costume them. Like what time period, what kind of clothing, are they really poor, or are they, what kind of farmers are they, what era? And that started conflating the emotional loss. And like I didn't want to worry about that. So then I realized if I made them robots, that they could be outside of time in a way, right? Put them into the future. And so the conveyance of loss is still there, but I didn't have to have all the baggage of human costuming and such. And then also it was interesting that the two robots are basically genderless. So you don't know if there's a male, female, or neutral gender. Like it doesn't have to be. It's just about the emotional sense of loss over someone or something that they obviously had love for. So that's it became an interesting painting that way.
Well, listening to you speak and looking at your works, would it be correct to say that in your art you are much more concentrated on say humans and creating and drawing people and
Yeah. Oh,
general than the environment, let's say?
oh yeah, 100, like, yeah, Luca, 100%, right? I mean, it's all about, that's why, like, that's in a way why the Silmarillion doesn't trigger me as much, is because it's so mythological, it's so elvish, right? It's so more foreign, and I feel like Lord of the Rings is so dirty nail. Even hobbits, even though they're, like when you get down to it, there's no elves, there's no dwarves, right? Tolkien is just writing about different kinds of people, right? Different, elves are people, dwarves are humans, right? The hobbits are human. They have tea, they have second tea. So they're all humans in a way. And that's what's really interesting is and so that's the way I kind of perceive them. I don't think of them as different races. I think of them as humans, just different qualities of humans. And that's why that's why I love painting hands, because it's about the human hand. It's about the human relationship with this work. Because last time I checked, I don't see any dwarves living in my neighborhood. I don't see any elves or any fairies flying by. I'm talking to people. I'm talking to humans with my artwork, and that's who I want to communicate with.
Well, listening to you, that because I was thinking about it while you were speaking, because that's one of the reasons I actually really like Silmarillion, because of that, because it describes the landscapes, it describes the world. I am a big fan of environments, like even in my comic books and manga. I love the setting. The setting has to be, it has to have its own character. When I'm reading Batman, and one of my favorite books is Year One. And the reason why it's my favorite is because the city is the character.
Yeah, no, like I grew up watching Blade Runner. Like, yeah, you want to talk about environments, right? I mean, oh my God, that film was amazing. And even Star Wars, like, right, Lucas he made a gritty sci-fi. He really played, like, Mos Eisley was amazing, right? The Death Star was, Dagobah, where Yoda was, amazing setting. So, like all of it, right? So I don't, like I love it too, Luke. Like if you look on my website, like I've been doing these landscapes lately too. So I'm getting drawn into those. I love architecture too, but I'm not like I think I'd still people oriented a little bit more. But if you had to like draw a line and say, which side are you going to stand on? I'm going to stand with the people. Yeah.
Yeah. We also, you mentioned architecture. One of my favorite manga of all time. It's kind of underrated. It's called Blame, from a guy named Tsutomu Nihei, and he was actually yeah, you could check it out, because he was actually an architect himself before he was drawing manga. And it's that manga is a cyberpunk, but it's so dark and empty. And
okay.
he spends entire chapters just drawing landscapes. Little to nothing happens. And I just love it because I feel like I'm there. I feel like I am in the environment. And that
Yeah.
means something.
Oh no, like I love like you're talking about like like graphic novels. The not Brazil, Belgian artists and French artists, Schouten and Peters, for their cities. I don't know if you're familiar with those graphic novels. But they're like the artist. Oh Jesus, Schouten he just does these incredible landscapes of architectural environments. And then I can't remember the name of the artist, but the Tekkon, it's a Japanese animated film, Tekkon Concrete, I believe. There's an illustrator who did those environments, and they're just mind blowing. I want to say Shinjin, but I'm not sure if that's the correct name. But like so, I'm like with you, Luca. Like I love those environments. That's what I got into science fiction for. It was also the world building. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, we love both sides. It's just about what draws you exactly primarily.
I know.
Story.
Like, also, when it comes down to it, it's like buildings take a lot of time to draw and paint. It's like it's a lot of labor to do a cityscape. It's like, oh, to paint it as an oil painter. It's like, you're raising the bar of labor. Like, oh my God, like, oh, it kills you. It kills me on that stuff.
Yeah, there's a manga artist. I don't know if you're familiar. It's pretty popular, called Bleach.
No, nope, not familiar with it.
Yeah, well, it's artist. It's pretty popular, manga. He famously, he doesn't like drawing backgrounds. So he says he puts his fight scenes a lot in the sky, so he just doesn't have to draw anything behind.
But I think of that. Yeah, I grew up like loving a couple illustrators, the comic book artists out of the 80s, John Byrne and George Perez. I don't know if you know those names, but both of those did a lot of detailed architectural elements, and so I love like looking at that work. Yeah.
Yeah, and just skip after 10 seconds, yeah, to the next page.
What's that?
Yeah, you really loved it and then skipped after 10 seconds to the next page.
Oh, to the next page, yeah.
Yeah. But also, I want to ask you this about AI. AI art is everywhere. AI videos are everywhere right now.
Yeah.
So what's your honest take about it, especially in your industry, in art? Do you see it as a threat? Do you see it as a tool, or is it something else entirely?
Well, I mean,
That is-
fundamentally, it's just criminal. It's theft. The foundation of it. So like there's two aspects of like, in a way, it's almost like what's happening with blockchain technology with cryptocurrency. The current representation of like Bitcoin and Ethereum is almost criminal in terms of like what it's doing to the environment. But the technology of what it represents is amazing. And that's kind of like true of the AI thing, is like the technology is amazing that it can kind of break down information, right? Reorganize it and reconstruct it in a really on a level that's basically unthought of before. But the actual application of it is that they, these companies, these AI software companies, created independent kind of nonprofit data sets, like these image banks that were supposed to be educational reservoirs of like all of the images on the internet. But they created that to bypass copyright law so they could train their AI on these nonprofit data banks and then basically steal millions and billions of images of copyrighted material to train their AI and then sell it back to people to to turn it into a profit machine. So that's a criminal bullshit. That's I got to watch my swearing. That's a criminal.
You do not have
habit as
to.
well. So AI in its current form is basically, Mid-Journey is a criminal activity. The open AI stuff is criminal activity. And it's just being licensed and consumed like it isn't, but it is. And so but as a tech person, as a science lover, science fiction, it's just it's a fascinating technology, and it will be transformative. It is transformative, right? It's having huge negative impacts in the commercial industries for arts, especially commercial arts already, graphic design, even in music, right? It's crazy. And but so I'm torn. Like right now, I don't touch it because it's criminal, and I don't want to be, even though it's like, oh, it could be helpful in some things. Like I mentioned, like I look at my art as meditative. It's a very, very personal thing. So I don't see, that would just dilute my experience with art if I try to inject AI into it. So I keep it intentionally out of my work. But certainly, like, I mean, if you can make up an image in a couple seconds for your book cover rather than paying an illustrator 3 weeks to do the work, there's gonna be some commercial, right, repercussions for that down the road, and it's already happening now. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Before asking you, what's next for Donato Giancola, is there some? What are some things that you are currently working on? Some, if you are willing to share with us.
Let's see, what am I doing? I'm doing these narrative illustrated books with Grim Oak Press. So I've been doing Tad Williams, a bunch of novels for him. So I'm currently reading on one of his next novels, going to be illustrating that. Let's see, I just finished up some a couple book cover illustrations, so those will be coming out later this coming year. Let's see, I just finished up a couple private commissions of Middle Earth. Got a couple more coming up in line. That little the Nazgul's hand with the knife. That's a personal project. Kind of getting back to adding more of those non-Gandalf Middle Earth paintings to my bounty. Let's see, going to Dragon Con this fall. So I just made a new dragon painting that I've been kind of sharing little details for. Going to Science Fiction World Convention. So I made a new painting for their programming cover. Got some more robots that I want to execute. So it's like, you see, like I'm just like,
You're a busy man.
Yeah.
I can, like, there's no end to what I want to do, the drawings. So it's more about whether I find commercial projects to align with what I want to do. And mostly I do. Yeah, mostly it's happening. Yeah.
Yeah, but are you maybe considering transitioning, let's say, a little bit more to a comic book world, maybe
no.
to do some art?
No, no, that's hell. Like it, like it's not hell. It's another skill set, and I haven't exercised that skill set in 40 some odd years, almost 40 years. It's no 30 years, I guess. It just, I mean, great storytelling through narrative, sequential panel is amazing. I love it, but I also recognize I don't have the speed capability to execute that, and I'd have to be learning a whole new art form. Not learning new, but I'd have to like really vest myself into a different way of technically executing that to make it viable. And I just have more paintings I want to make. To be honest, like it's. I mean, I'd love to do a story, like especially with my robots, like, but I just don't see how I could get there. Yeah, right.
Yeah, completely get it. Yeah. Do you I believe that you are familiar with work of Esad Ribic, right?
Who's that? The pet?
Esad Ribic, he is one of the, in my opinion, one of the best artists in comic book world currently. He's working a lot for Marvel.
Oh no,
he-
I haven't read I haven't read contemporary like superhero stuff. Marvel.
Yeah, just check. I'll send you some of his works, as he's also devoted to chiaroscuro and everything. So he really have a great style, and I think you'll like it. So
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Beto. Yeah.
yeah. And before we wrap up, we have a little tradition here where we have a quote from Montenegrin language that we translate to English and share a little bit of our world and our traditions to a little bit of our nation and our traditions to the world. So for this episode, I've chosen a quote from one of our and considered by many our best artists. He's called Petar Lubarda, and he said in Montenegrin language, umjetnost nije ono što vidiš, već ono što osjećaš gledajući. And translated to English, it would be, art is not what you see, but what you feel while looking at it. So,
Very good.
so it kind of resembles your arts and your style, and I hope
It's a
you
great
like
quote.
it.
Yeah, that's it is. It is really what you bring to that relationship, what you bring to that experience. Right. Very nice.
So Donato, thank you for this interesting about an hour for this episode. So I hope you liked our questions, that it was interesting for you as much as for us.
Oh no, your guys are great. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking with you, and thank you. And I hope like some artists who might be watching this might get inspired and take their work to another level.
Hope so.
Be great.
Yeah, we as well. So until our paths cross again, see you.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you.